Marcus Bell stood in the crowded area outside Buckingham Palace. He was a 43-year-old man from America who worked as an accountant. For many years, he had saved money to visit London. Now he was finally here, but things were not going as he hoped. The weather was cold and gray. Rain had been falling earlier, leaving the ground wet and slippery. Hundreds of tourists were pushing against each other, all trying to get a good view of the famous palace. Marcus felt his excitement turning into anger. "I waited my whole life for this," he muttered to himself as he tried to see past the tall man standing in front of him. The famous changing of the guard ceremony was running late. People around him were checking their watches and sighing. Marcus was not a patient man. Back home in Ohio, he was known for speaking his mind and not waiting his turn. His wife often told him this would get him in trouble someday. Today was that day. "Excuse me," he said loudly, pushing past an older couple. The woman gave him an angry look, but Marcus pretended not to notice. He kept moving forward, ignoring the unhappy sounds from the people he pushed aside. "I paid good money to be here," he told himself. "I deserve to see something." After several minutes of pushing, Marcus reached the tall black iron gates that surrounded the palace. Just beyond the gates stood a royal guard. The man wore the famous red jacket and tall black furry hat. His face showed no emotion. He stood perfectly still, like a statue. Marcus watched the guard for a few minutes. The man did not move at all. Not even his eyes blinked. "Hey," Marcus called out. The guard did not respond. A young woman standing nearby looked at Marcus with shock. "You should not speak to them," she said in a soft voice. "It is their job to remain still and quiet." But Marcus did not like being told what to do. The more he looked at the guard standing there doing nothing, the more annoyed he became. He had traveled thousands of miles to see something interesting, and this was all he got. A man standing still. "Hey, buddy," Marcus shouted louder. "Do something. Move or talk or something." People around him began to move away. A father pulled his young children back. An older man shook his head in disapproval. The guard remained perfectly still. His eyes looked straight ahead, not even moving toward Marcus. This made Marcus even angrier. He felt like he was being ignored on purpose. Back home, nobody ignored Marcus Bell. "What a joke," he shouted, his voice now echoing across the open space. "They pay you to just stand there like a statue. My tax dollars at work." A palace worker in a dark suit began walking toward Marcus with a serious look on his face. But Marcus was not finished. He took out his water bottle and removed the cap. "Maybe this will wake you up," he said with a mean smile. He moved his arm back, ready to throw water at the guard. Just as the water left the bottle, something strange happened. The water did not fall to the ground. Instead, it hung in the air, floating as if time itself had stopped. A strange silence fell over the crowd. Everyone stopped talking at once. Even the birds stopped making noise. The guard, who had not moved for hours, slowly turned his head. His eyes, which had been normal just seconds ago, now glowed with a bright blue light. The light was not natural. It seemed old and powerful. When the guard opened his mouth, the voice that came out did not sound human. It was deep and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You have awakened what should have remained sleeping," the voice said. And Marcus Bell knew, in that moment, that he had made a terrible mistake. The crowd around Marcus moved back quickly. People pushed and shoved to get away from the strange blue light coming from the guard's eyes. The palace worker who had been walking toward Marcus stopped and stood frozen in fear. Marcus wanted to run too, but he could not move. The same strange power that kept the water drops floating in the air was now holding him in place. His feet felt heavy, like they were stuck in thick mud. "What is happening?" Marcus asked. His voice came out small and weak, not like his usual loud way of talking. The guard stepped forward. This simple move shocked the few tourists who were still watching. Everyone knew the royal guards never moved from their spots during duty. It was against the rules. But this guard was not just breaking rules. He was moving in a way that did not look human. His steps were smooth and flowing, like water running down a hill. The air around him had a blue glow that moved like fog. "For centuries, we have protected not just the royal family," the guard said. His voice still sounded like many people talking at once. "We guard something far older that sleeps beneath this palace." Marcus tried again to move, to run away, but could not. Fear made his heart beat fast. Sweat ran down his face, even though the day was cool. The ground under Buckingham Palace began to shake slightly. At first, Marcus thought he was imagining it. Then he saw small stones jumping on the ground. The metal gates rattled. People who had been watching now turned and ran, screaming about an earthquake. "The Covenant of 1703, the guard continued, now standing right in front of Marcus, said that as long as respect was shown, the Ancient One would remain asleep. The guard raised his hand. Marcus tried to move away but could not. The guard touched Marcus's forehead with one finger of his white glove. Marcus's mind was suddenly filled with pictures he had never seen before. He saw London as it was hundreds of years ago. He saw men in old clothes digging deep under where the palace now stood. They had found something massive and ancient buried in the earth. Marcus saw these men making a deal with the thing they had found. He saw the first royal guards being chosen, not just to protect the king, but to keep this ancient being calm and sleeping. He saw the careful acts each new group of guards performed in secret to keep the peace. "Your disrespect has broken our agreement with the Ancient One," the guard said. More guards appeared, coming from different doors around the palace grounds. They all walked with the same strange, flowing movements. They all had the same glowing blue eyes. They formed a circle around Marcus. "Look," one guard said, pointing down. A crack had opened in the ground near Marcus's feet. It was small, just wide enough to see down into darkness. But from deep below came a soft blue light, the same color as the guard's eyes. A whisper seemed to rise from the crack, a sound like many voices speaking a language Marcus did not know. "It is waking up," another guard said. "After 300 years of sleep, it stirs because of your disrespect." "I'm sorry," Marcus said quickly. "I didn't know. I was just being stupid. Please, let me go." The main guard, the one Marcus had insulted, shook his head slowly. "Words are not enough now. Actions have been taken that cannot be undone so easily." The guard motioned toward a small door on the side of the palace. It was an old wooden door that tourists never noticed. "Come," the guard said. "You have broken something ancient. Now you must help us fix it." Marcus felt the force holding him loosen enough that he could walk. The circle of guards moved with him toward the door. As they walked, Marcus noticed something terrifying. The guards were not casting any shadows on the ground. The small wooden door creaked open as the lead guard pushed it with one gloved hand. It revealed a narrow stone hallway that looked much older than the rest of the palace. The walls were made of rough gray stones, and old-fashioned torches hung in iron holders, giving off blue flames instead of normal orange fire. Marcus stepped inside, following the guard. The other guards came behind him, closing the door. The sounds of the outside world disappeared at once. The hallway was so quiet that Marcus could hear his own heart beating fast with fear. "Where are you taking me?" Marcus asked. His voice echoed against the stone walls. None of the guards answered. They just kept walking, their feet making no sound on the stone floor. Marcus noticed that the hallway sloped downward. They were going under the palace, deeper and deeper with each step. The air grew colder as they walked. Marcus wrapped his arms around himself, wishing he had worn a warmer jacket. His breath came out in white clouds. The guards, however, did not seem to feel the cold. They did not breathe out any visible air. After walking for what seemed like a long time, they came to a large round room. This room looked even older than the hallway. The stones here were covered with strange marks and pictures that Marcus could not understand. They showed people bowing to something large and strange-looking that seemed to be sleeping under the ground. In the center of the room was a perfect circle cut into the stone floor. It was filled with water so still it looked like a mirror. The blue torches around the room reflected in the water, making it glow with an eerie light. "Look into the pool," the lead guard commanded, his voice still sounding like many voices together. Marcus did not want to look. Something about the still water scared him more than anything else so far. But the guards moved closer behind him, giving him no choice. Slowly, Marcus stepped to the edge of the pool and looked down. Instead of seeing his own face reflected in the water, Marcus saw London. But it was not the London he had been walking through earlier that day. This London was burning. Buildings were falling down. The famous River Thames was boiling. Strange lights moved across a dark sky. People were running in fear through broken streets. "What is this?" Marcus asked, stepping back from the terrible sight. "This is what will happen if the Ancient One fully wakes," the lead guard said. "What you awakened with your disrespect is just beginning to stir. If it fully wakes, this is the future that awaits London and then the world." Marcus felt sick. "I didn't know," he said weakly. "I was just being stupid. How can I stop this?" The guards formed a circle around the pool. They began to speak together in a language Marcus had never heard before. The strange words seemed to fill the room with power. The water in the pool began to move, forming small waves that grew larger with each word the guard spoke. From the center of the pool, something began to rise. At first, Marcus thought it was a person coming up from under the water. Then he saw it was a uniform. A Royal Guard uniform, complete with the tall black bearskin hat, was floating above the pool. "1 year," the lead guard said, turning to Marcus. "You must take my place for 1 year. You must stand guard, never moving, never speaking, showing perfect respect at all times. This is the only way to put the Ancient One back to sleep." "A year," Marcus said in shock. "I can't stay in London for a year. I have a job back home, a wife, a life." "You have a choice," another guard said. His blue eyes seemed to look through Marcus. 1 year of service to save millions of lives, or return home knowing what your actions will cause. The uniform floated toward Marcus, stopping right in front of him. He stared at it, understanding for the first time that the Royal Guards were not just for show. They were keeping something dangerous asleep through their perfect discipline and respect. "What will happen to you?" Marcus asked the lead guard. "I will rest," the guard said. For the first time, he looked tired. "I have stood guard for 20 years. It is time for another to take my place. Usually, it would be someone chosen carefully and trained for years. But your actions have forced us to change our plans." Marcus reached out with shaking hands and touched the floating uniform. It felt strange, both solid and not solid at the same time. The red fabric seemed to move slightly under his fingers, almost like it was breathing. "How can I possibly do this?" Marcus asked. "I don't know how to be a Royal Guard. I don't know how to stand still for hours. I'm not even British." The lead guard's blue eyes seemed to soften a little. "The uniform will help you. It contains some of the power we use to keep the Ancient One asleep, but your mind must be strong too. You must truly want to fix what you have broken." Marcus thought about the burning London he had seen in the pool. He thought about his wife back home, his friends, his comfortable house. He thought about never seeing them again if the world ended the way the vision showed. "Will I be able to tell anyone why I'm doing this?" Marcus asked. The guards all shook their heads at the same time, moving exactly together, like they shared one mind. "No one must know the truth," a female guard said. Marcus had not noticed her before among the others. "The secret has been kept for centuries. Only those who wear the uniform know." Marcus took a deep breath. He did not see any way out of this situation. And deep down, he knew he was responsible. His mother had always told him his big mouth would get him in serious trouble someday. She had been more right than she could have imagined. "What do I need to do?" Marcus asked. The lead guard smiled for the first time. It was not a friendly smile, but one of approval. Take the uniform. Put it on. We will teach you what you need to know. Marcus reached out and took the uniform from the air. As soon as he held it in his hands, the strange floating quality disappeared. It became just cloth and leather, heavy in his arms. Change your clothes, the lead guard ordered, pointing to a small side room. Marcus went into the room, which contained only a simple wooden bench. He took off his tourist clothes, his comfortable jeans, Ohio State t-shirt, and walking sneakers. He carefully put on each piece of the guard uniform. The pants were stiff and scratchy. The red jacket felt too tight across his shoulders. The tall bearskin hat was heavier than it looked. When he was fully dressed, Marcus looked down at himself. The uniform fit perfectly, even though no one had measured him. This seemed impossible, but after everything else he had seen today, it was just one more strange thing. He walked back into the main room where the guards waited. They all turned to look at him. Their blue eyes widened in surprise. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, suddenly afraid he had put something on backwards. "The uniform has accepted you completely," the lead guard said. "This has never happened so quickly before. Look at your reflection." Another guard brought forward a large silver mirror. When Marcus looked into it, he gasped in shock. His normal brown eyes now glowed blue, just like the other guards. His face looked different too, more serious, more dignified. He barely recognized himself. "The Ancient One recognizes your sincere wish to fix your mistake," the female guard explained. "It has given some of its power to you already." Marcus felt something strange inside him, a feeling of being connected to something very old and very powerful. He could sense it deep below the palace, a massive presence slowly falling back into sleep. It knew he was there. It knew he had taken responsibility. "Now we begin your training," the lead guard said. "You have much to learn in a very short time. Usually, guards train for years before taking their post. You have only days." "What about my life back home?" Marcus asked. "My wife will report me missing. The police will look for me." "That has been taken care of," another guard said. "Time works differently in the Ancient One's presence. While you are here with us, learning, only minutes will pass in the outside world. When you take your post, we will send a message to your wife. She will believe you have taken a special job in London for 1 year. She will not question it." Marcus wasn't sure if he should feel relieved or more frightened by this power over minds and time. He straightened his back and tried to stand tall like the other guards. "I'm ready to learn," he said, though he did not feel ready at all. The training began immediately. The lead guard took Marcus to a different room deeper under the palace. This room was perfectly square with walls made of smooth white stone. There were no decorations, no furniture, just empty space with a single small circle marked on the floor. "Stand in the circle," the lead guard ordered. Marcus did as he was told. The circle was just big enough for him to stand with his feet together. "Now, do not move," the lead guard said. "Not your fingers, not your eyes, not even to blink if you can help it. Complete stillness is the first lesson." Marcus tried his best to stand perfectly still. At first, it seemed easy. Then, after just a few minutes, his nose began to itch. His left foot wanted to shift. His back started to hurt. "The body always wants to move," the lead guard explained, walking slowly around Marcus. "This is natural. But you must learn to quiet these urges. Focus your mind on the Ancient One below. Feel its sleep. Match your stillness to its stillness." Marcus tried to sense the strange being he had felt earlier. Surprisingly, he could feel it. A heavy, dreaming presence far below his feet. He focused on it, and for a moment, his body's discomfort faded. But then a fly landed on his cheek. The urge to swat it away was almost unbearable. "Your face is moving," the lead guard said sharply. "Begin again." And so it went, hour after hour. The guards were strict teachers. Every time Marcus moved even slightly, they made him start over. By what felt like evening, Though there was no way to tell time in the underground rooms, Marcus's legs were shaking with effort and pain. "Enough for today," the lead guard finally said. "Rest now. Tomorrow we continue." Marcus was led to a small sleeping room with a simple bed. He fell onto it, still wearing the uniform, too tired to even take off the heavy jacket. He thought he would fall asleep instantly, but instead his mind filled with strange dreams while he was still awake. He saw London as it was centuries ago. He saw the first discovery of the ancient being during excavations for an earlier palace. He felt the fear of the workers who had accidentally disturbed its sleep. He witnessed the first agreement between humans and the Ancient One, a promise of respect and stillness in exchange for continued sleep. When real sleep finally came, it was deep and without normal dreams. The next morning, or what passed for morning underground, Marcus was woken by the female guard. "Today you learn the mind techniques," she said. This training was even harder than the physical stillness. Marcus had to learn to keep his mind calm and focused for hours. The guards taught him to empty his thoughts when tourists were being rude or when the weather was uncomfortable. "Your thoughts affect the Ancient One," the female guard explained. "If you feel disrespect from others and let it anger you, that anger travels down to where the Ancient One sleeps. It disturbs the sleep. You must be a wall that negative feelings cannot pass through." Marcus practiced by standing still while the guard said insulting things to him, threw small objects near him, even sprayed him with cold water. At first, he reacted every time, his face showing anger or discomfort. But slowly, over many hours of practice, he learned to let these things pass over him without reaction. On the third day, they taught him the ceremonial movements used during the changing of the guard. "These movements are not just for show," the lead guard explained. "Each step, each turn has meaning. They are part of the ancient language that keeps the old ones sleeping peacefully." Marcus found the movements difficult to master. They looked simple when the guards did them, just walking, turning, and standing at attention. But each move had to be done in exactly the right way with precise timing. No, the lead guard said after Marcus made a turn too quickly. "These movements have kept London safe for centuries. You must get them exactly right." By the end of the 5th day, Marcus's body ached all over. His mind was tired from constant concentration, but he had made progress. He could now stand completely still for 2 hours without moving. He could perform most of the ceremonial moves correctly. He was beginning to understand what it truly meant to be a royal guard. "Tomorrow," the lead guard said at the end of the day's training, "you will take your post outside the palace. You are not fully trained, but time is short. The Ancient One grows restless." That night, lying on his bed, Marcus felt afraid but also strangely proud. He had never done anything so important in his life. Back home, he was just an accountant who complained a lot. Here, he was learning to be something much more. A guardian of an ancient secret, a protector of London and perhaps the world. The morning of Marcus's first day as a royal guard arrived too quickly. He put on the full uniform with care, making sure each button was fastened correctly. The lead guard inspected him closely, adjusting his hat to sit at exactly the right angle. "Today, you join a tradition older than the current palace," the lead guard said. "Remember everything you have learned. Never break your stillness. Never show emotion. Keep your mind calm and focused on the Ancient One's sleep." Marcus nodded, trying to hide how nervous he felt. His heart was beating so fast, he was sure the others could hear it. The female guard stepped forward. She held a small box made of dark wood. When she opened it, Marcus saw a small blue stone inside, glowing with the same light as the guard's eyes. "This will help you today," she said, taking out the stone. "It contains some of the Ancient One's essence. It will make the connection stronger." She placed the stone in a hidden pocket inside Marcus's red jacket, right over his heart. Immediately, Marcus felt a wave of calm move through his body. His racing heart slowed down. His shaking hands became steady. "Now you are ready," the lead guard said. "Follow me." They walked through different tunnels than the ones Marcus had seen before. These were wider and seemed newer. After climbing several flights of stairs, they reached a modern door with an electronic lock. The lead guard pressed his hand against a scanner, and the door opened. They were in a small room inside the main palace. Through a window, Marcus could see tourists already gathering outside, taking pictures and pointing at the palace. "Your post is by the east gate," the lead guard explained. "You will march out with the other guards during the changing ceremony. Then you will stand at your post until the next change. 6 hours of complete stillness." Marcus swallowed hard. 6 hours seemed impossible, despite all his training. "Remember, every moment you stand still helps keep the Ancient One asleep," the female guard said, seeing his worry. "Every second of perfect control is important." A bell rang somewhere in the palace. The lead guard straightened up. "It is time," he said. "From this moment, you do not speak. You do not react. You are no longer Marcus Bell from Ohio. You are a royal guard, keeper of the ancient covenant." Marcus took a deep breath and nodded one last time. He followed the lead guard out into a courtyard where other royal guards were gathering. These guards looked at Marcus with normal eyes, not glowing blue ones. They didn't know the secret. They were just doing a job, following a tradition without understanding its true purpose. A guard captain looked Marcus over and seemed satisfied with what he saw. Marcus was grateful for the ancient stone in his pocket, helping him maintain a calm appearance despite his fear. The changing of the guard ceremony began. Marcus followed the other guards, copying their precise movements exactly as he had been taught. The tourists watched from beyond the gates, taking pictures and videos. Marcus wondered what his wife was doing back home. Did she really believe he had taken a job in London? Would she wait a year for him to return? Then he was at his post by the east gate. The other guards marched away, leaving him standing alone. Crowds of tourists moved around on the other side of the gate, many stopping to look at him and take pictures. Marcus focused his mind on standing perfectly still. He thought about the Ancient One far below his feet. He could feel it more clearly now, its massive presence slowly settling back into deeper sleep. The blue stone near his heart helped him feel connected to it. The first hour passed slowly. Marcus's legs began to hurt, but he remembered his training and pushed the pain away from his mind. The second hour was worse. A light rain began to fall, soaking into his uniform. The hat became even heavier as it absorbed water. During the third hour, a group of loud American tourists stopped in front of him. One of them, a young man with a baseball cap, reminded Marcus of himself just a few days ago. "Hey, Mr. Guard, can you smile for the camera?" the young man called out. His friends laughed. Marcus did not move. He did not blink. He did not allow himself to feel annoyed. Instead, he focused more deeply on the ancient presence below. To his surprise, he felt the Ancient One respond, sending a wave of approval up through the stone and into his heart. For the first time, Marcus understood truly why the guards stood so still, why the tradition had been kept for so long. It wasn't just a job or a show for tourists. It was a sacred duty, protecting the world from something it could not understand. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Marcus stood at his post every day, through rain and shine, through hot summer days and cold winter mornings. His body grew stronger. Standing still for 6 hours no longer caused him pain. His mind became calmer, more focused. The tourists came and went. Some were respectful, quietly taking photos from a distance. Others were like Marcus had been, loud and rude, trying to make him move or react. None of them succeeded. Marcus had become a true royal guard in more ways than the tourists could ever understand. At night, when his shift ended, Marcus returned to the rooms beneath the palace. There, the blue-eyed guards taught him more about the ancient being and the history of their secret duty. He learned that the royal family knew only parts of the truth. They understood that the guards performed an important traditional role, but only a few trusted advisors knew about the sleeping presence beneath London. The Ancient One has been here longer than humans have lived on this island, the female guard explained one evening. Her name was Eleanor, and she had been a guard for 15 years. It came from the stars, long before written history. It crashed here and burrowed deep into the earth to heal and rest. Is it good or evil? Marcus asked. This question had bothered him for months. Eleanor smiled slightly. It is neither. It simply is. Like a great storm or an earthquake, it has power beyond human understanding. This power can destroy if it is disturbed or released suddenly. But when it sleeps peacefully, its dreams actually protect this land in ways most people never notice. Marcus thought about this during his next shift. As he stood perfectly still by the gate, he tried to feel the Ancient One's dreams. Surprisingly, he could sense them. Soft waves of something like music flowing up from deep below, spreading out across London. He realized he had been feeling this all along, but hadn't recognized what it was. In his 4th month as a guard, something unexpected happened. A small boy, about 5 years old, stopped in front of Marcus. The boy was not trying to make him move or laugh. Instead, he stared at Marcus with serious eyes that seemed too old for his young face. I know what you're doing, the boy said quietly, so his parents couldn't hear. I can feel it too. The big sleeping thing under the ground. Marcus did not move or speak, but inside he was shocked. The boy smiled and nodded, as if Marcus had answered him. Don't worry. I won't tell anyone, the boy said. My grandma could feel it too. She told me about it before she died. The boy's parents called him away then. As he left, the boy turned and gave Marcus a small salute. Marcus felt the blue stone in his pocket grow warm. The Ancient One had noticed this exchange. That night, Marcus told Eleanor about the boy. There have always been a few who can sense the Ancient One naturally, she explained. Often children, whose minds are still open to such things. They usually lose the ability as they grow older. But some, like this boy, might keep it. We watch for such people. Sometimes they become guards themselves when they are older. So the Ancient One chooses the guards? Marcus asked. In a way, yes, Eleanor replied. The uniform and the stone help us connect with it, but some connection must already exist within the person. That's why you adapted so quickly to the training. Despite your disrespectful behavior, the Ancient One sensed something in you that could be useful. This made Marcus think about his life back in Ohio. Had he always had this connection without knowing it? Is that why he had felt so drawn to visit London, despite the cost and difficulty? Had the Ancient One somehow called him here? As his 6th month of service began, Marcus noticed changes in himself beyond just standing still. He could sense things about the tourists who passed his post. He knew which ones were happy and which ones carried sadness or anger. He could feel small shifts in the earth beneath London, tiny movements as the Ancient One adjusted in its sleep. One rainy afternoon, as Marcus stood at his post, he suddenly felt something different, a sharp spike of dark energy coming from somewhere in the crowd. His eyes, now permanently tinted with the blue glow when he was alone, scanned the tourists without moving his head. There, a man in a black coat, carrying a backpack that gave off strange energy. Marcus could sense bad intentions, like black smoke around the man. Without breaking his stillness, Marcus sent a thought down to the Ancient One, a warning about this threat above. The response was immediate. The stone in Marcus's pocket grew hot. A small tremor shook the ground, so slight that only the man in the black coat seemed to notice it. The man looked around nervously, then hurried away from the palace, taking his dark intentions with him. Winter came to London, bringing cold winds and occasional snow. Marcus stood at his post, the chill seeping through his uniform despite its thickness. Yet he remained perfectly still, his mind focused on the warm presence deep below. The Ancient One's sleep had grown deeper and more peaceful during Marcus's months of service. The blue-eyed guards told him he was doing well. Your commitment has helped heal the disturbance you caused, Eleanor said during one evening meeting beneath the palace. The Ancient One responds well to your energy. As the year mark approached, Marcus began to think more about his life back in Ohio. His wife, his job, his house with the cracked driveway he had always meant to fix. These memories seemed distant now, like they belonged to someone else. The Marcus who had arrived in London as an impatient tourist no longer existed. One snowy January morning, during his regular shift, Marcus noticed a familiar face in the crowd. His heart jumped in his chest, but he kept his outer appearance perfectly still. It was his wife, Sarah, walking slowly past the palace gates, looking at each guard carefully. She had not told him she was coming to London. The blue-eyed guards had maintained some form of communication with her throughout the year, letters and emails that she believed came from Marcus, explaining his special job with the palace security. But now she was here in person, just a few feet away from him. Sarah stopped directly in front of Marcus. Her eyes moved over his face, not showing any sign that she recognized him. Marcus stood perfectly still, though inside his mind was racing. Would she know him? Had he changed so much in these months? "Excuse me," Sarah said to another tourist standing nearby, an older woman with a guidebook. "Do you know how long these guards stay at their posts?" 6 hours, I believe," the woman answered. "Quite remarkable." "Really?" Sarah nodded and looked back at Marcus. "Yes, remarkable." She studied his face a moment longer, then moved on, continuing down the line of guards. That night, Marcus told Eleanor about seeing his wife. "This is unexpected," Eleanor said, looking concerned. "The Ancient One did not foresee this visit." "Will I be able to see her before she leaves London?" Marcus asked. "My year is almost complete. Just 3 more weeks." Eleanor looked troubled. "I will speak with the others. This complicates things." The next day, as Marcus took his post, he felt a strange vibration through the stone in his pocket. Something was different. The Ancient One was more active today, its dreams less peaceful. Marcus focused his mind on sending calming thoughts downward, as he had been taught. Through the morning, the vibrations grew stronger. Small objects around the palace grounds began to shake slightly, pebbles jumping on the ground, water rippling in puddles. Most tourists did not notice, but Marcus could feel that something was building. Then he saw Sarah again, walking toward his post with determined steps. This time, she came right up to the gate and stared directly at Marcus. Her eyes narrowed as she studied his face. "Marcus," she said quietly, "is that really you?" Marcus remained perfectly still, not showing any reaction, but the stone in his pocket grew painfully hot. The Ancient One was responding to this moment, to the emotional connection between Marcus and his wife. Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a photograph. She held it up so Marcus could see it. It was a picture of them together on their wedding day, both smiling at the camera, much younger and full of hope. "I know it's you," she said, her voice stronger now. "These letters I've been getting, they don't sound like you at all. Something strange is happening, and I'm not leaving London until I find out what it is." The ground gave a small but noticeable shake. Tourists looked around in confusion. Sarah felt it too, but she kept her eyes on Marcus. "I'll be back tomorrow," she said, "and the next day, and the day after that, however long it takes." She walked away, still holding the wedding photograph. As soon as she was gone, Marcus felt the stone cool down. The small tremors stopped, but he knew something important had changed. That night, the blue-eyed guards held an emergency meeting in the chamber with the reflecting pool. The lead guard looked more serious than usual. "The Ancient One is disturbed by this connection," he told Marcus. "Your wife's presence and her emotional pull on you have created a problem." "What kind of problem?" Marcus asked. "The covenant requires complete focus and detachment from your old life," Eleanor explained gently. "Your year is almost complete, but this new development threatens to undo much of what we have accomplished." "What can I do?" Marcus asked, feeling torn between his duty to the Ancient One and his love for his wife. The lead guard looked into the reflecting pool, its surface showing rippling images of London. "There are two paths now," he said. "Either your wife must leave London immediately, without seeing you again, or what?" Marcus asked. "Or you must make a greater commitment," the lead guard said. "Not 1 year of service, but many. You must become a true guardian, like us."